Join Samantha and Hans at the next Macro to Micro Options Power Hour, held each Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Registration is free. Scan this QR code or click on the link in the description.
Yields are stable, CPI is stable, employment is stable, corporate earnings are stable. You take any of those and muck them up, then we're going to have some more volatility, and that's what we don't have right now. So we're waiting for earnings, which kick off next week, especially bank earnings. We'll see if there's any slowdown in lending. We'll see on the aggregate if it's hard to have earnings actually on the aggregate fall because they just ratchet lower the earnings expectations so they can beat and raise. That's the game we have to play along. But the point is there is stabilization on these numbers. If you believe them, that's not my game. It's just there is stabilization. We start moving higher in jobless claims. So that's absolutely going to be a trigger. That's very hard for the administration to control. Right now, they are projecting from this OBBB. Kevin Hassett was out in this Sunday touting 3% per annum growth for 10 years, which is hard to do. But that's his model and he's sticking to it. And that's the rah-rah call. So that's why the market's also excited. Tax cuts are passed on and they're not looking at anything bad. So melt up is priced in, not melt down. But one thing I wanted to show you and get your thoughts on is this. So, I've done this chart many times before. So for anyone who is recurring here, you'll know this is growth value rotation and it's kind of kludgy, but just bear with me. It is something I look at every single bloody day. And the reason why I kind of highlight it is you've got this situation where growth value, this was all NVIDIA, very big move May of 2023. And then we actually topped out. I was doing a macro to micro power hour with Craig on this July 19th. And we literally topped out right here and we had the yen carry trade. It was very extended. All right. So the yen carry trade unwind of last year and you came in. That's right. You covered for me that week. I was on vacation. So much happens when I'm on vacation. Anyway, and then we had this Trump bump. You can see it right here. Very strong growth rotation. We formed actually a perfect head and shoulders right here for anyone who's into technical analysis. But the point is it gets extended and then it crashes. This was a head and shoulders and that was basically the Trump bump was unwound for reasons related to tariffs, etc. So then, of course, the announcement of tariffs, you've got the selling under the surface came in basically in February when I warned, and then we had the announcement of tariffs. Anyway, long story short, we had the intervention April 9th, very important, formed another little inverse head and shoulder of size, and we've been moving higher in growth.
Double bottom there. I mean, perfect tag of that earlier level. Beautiful.
But this is what I have been waiting for, right? So, and clients know this. It's this level right here. Again, it's kind of a kludgy chart, but bear with me because that would make a really nice, long story short, you kind of got this left shoulder, you got this head, and then you got a right shoulder. So whether or not we get it is another thing. In other words, get it? Yes, I think we're going to melt up and then pull back because it's going to be too extended. That's kind of like my vibe of how I'm looking at this chart. The problem is the timing of this. It looks like it's ready to go. Like maybe earnings will be a very hot deal. Anyway, I'm just kind of looking for, first and foremost, this growth to value is still in play. Growth coming up back into this area where we had it before, and then we'll see what happens. But more importantly, what does that do to VIX? The whole reason I'm going through this mantra is to say, what about VIX? If it's going to hit my 1550 area, and yet that melt up isn't done.
Yeah, so look, I think it stays in there because if we truly do get the melt up, which is I've been talking about it and I think it continues. And I think the market is becoming a bit emboldened. We can tell that there's an underlying bid. Now, whether it's from institutions not having gotten in, they were all out. This is one of the least participated rallies that I've seen in many years. From the data, we can see that it really took a while. Retail was the smart money. Retail's been buying all the way up. And then the smart money has had to say, well, listen, we're going to put in some terrible performances if we don't get on board here. So we've seen some of that come back in up to about 6,000, 6,100. So we did see some of the smarter money kind of replenish their allocations a little bit. Now, if the market melts up, then I think we actually see a bid in VIX, as we were sort of talking about a moment ago. And I don't see it getting a whole lot lower than really where it is at this point, because it has to start to account for movement. Upside movement is still movement. So if the upside movement becomes somewhat violent, then that's going to be reflected. And so, as you know, I've been looking at, I want to show you guys a couple things, but I've been looking at, this has sort of been one of my indicators. I think the market has been emboldened by this next phase of AI. I know it sounds like this broken record, but it's been a profitable broken record. It's been music to my wallet. So I'm going to continue to push it because I think it's a bubble inflating in some areas, right? I don't think it's a bubble in Amazon. I mean, look, even Mag will get expensive at some point, but I don't think Nvidia is expensive. So I've been screaming about buying this since 117, 120. I was very uncertain around 110, 105. And that's how you have to be as a trader. I was thinking things are not looking very good. And then around 117, I said, no, this is changing. I can see this inference phase start to begin. And this is going to be extremely different. There's going to be something that requires much more compute. It's going to continue to require, that's what's rejuvenated the chip makers. You can see the SOX is straight up. And I've been getting members into things like SOXL. I'm up like 400% on some of these calls that I bought. And people said, you're crazy. Why are you buying calls on SOXL? And I said, well, I don't often do that. And I've actually started to do it on MSTX. And if you notice, MSTR is starting to go for run. Bitcoin may be breaking out. And so there's a time and a place for certain kinds of these crazy instruments. And I think you can see the silly money.
Join Samantha and Hans at the next Macro to Micro Options Power Hour, held each Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Registration is free. Scan this QR code or click on the link in the description. Watch the full Options Macro to Micro Power Hour episode by clicking on the video here and subscribe to LaDucTrading YouTube channel for more content.